100 Winters, Retracing the Great Race Against Death. Written by Jonathan Nathaniel Hayes, illustrated by Caleb Gingras. Chapter 14, To the Coast. What scares you? Before the expedition, several reporters asked me some variation of the same question. As you consider the conditions your team will face on this expedition, what concerns you most? My answer was always the same, without hesitation: the coast. From the outset, I knew the coast would be the biggest challenge of the expedition, and that it would only get worse the closer we got to Nome. Of all the things that could go wrong, the coast would offer our greatest test. There were various climate and trail conditions we expected to face on this journey that we could prepare for back home in northernmost Maine. Deep snow? We get more snow in northern Maine than most places in Alaska. Overflow and drum ice? They're common occurrences in the Northwoods waterways. Even the deep cold? Though it usually lasts only a day or two at a time, we regularly experience minus 40 Fahrenheit in the winter. But Alaska would serve up one extreme that could not be replicated in Maine, and it made me nervous: the frozen coast. The coast in this subarctic region of Alaska is notorious for gale, even hurricane-force winds. These winds create whiteout conditions and are strong enough to catch a man and sled like a sail, hurling an entire dog team from a ridge into an abyss of darkness. At best, the winds polish the ice down to a glassy surface with no purchase. At worst, true stories exist of dog teams being blown out to sea when the winds break off sea ice they travel on. These conditions only worsen as you head north and west along the coast until you reach the stretch between the Topkok Hills and Solomon, a region so treacherous it's earned its own nickname, the Blowhole. It's called that because fiercely cold Arctic winds funnel through a narrow mountain pass, creating a convection of hurricane-force gusts and whiteouts. Add those winds to seasonal temperatures of minus 30, minus 40, even colder, and it becomes a literal death trap, with wind chills dropping to a staggering minus 120 degree Fahrenheit or even colder. The fact is, even Iditarod champions, Alaskan mushers who live and train here, have had to hit the SOS button on the coast. Better mushers than me have broken legs, lost dogs, battling the coast. How would my Maine-bred and reared Sepolis hold up? Would their lack of exposure to such conditions doom us? Or would their ancestral DNA hardwiring kick in and save us? I could only speculate. There was no way to know until we were in the thick of it. Leaving Old Woman Cabin that morning meant leaving the sheltered inland route. It meant committing ourselves to the unforgiving Bering Sea coastline at the worst possible time of year, when even the natives rarely venture from their villages, and we would soon discover that the coast lived up to its fearsome reputation. It was a remarkably beautiful day. Our run out of the hills and into Unalakleet River Delta went off without a hitch. The delta was filled with sloughs, snaking branches of the river and its tributaries, each as long as the next. But Jamie and Jeff had broken for town early that morning, and the tracks they left were easy to follow. The mileage for the day was 20 miles shorter than what the dogs were used to, so when they started seeing signs of civilization, they began to cruise. With every homestead or fish camp we passed, the speed increased. The ice surface was like polished granite, and again, I struggled to check the team's speed. We had a day off coming up for the dogs since I would be doing school presentations, and the dogs were having so much fun that I let them increase from a fast trot into a full lope. I was thrilled to see such energy 2/3 of the way into the expedition. "Easy, guys," I offered as a suggestion, but didn't fight them. They were euphoric, and so was I. Then the elation came to an abrupt stop. It was in this beautiful flow state with the dogs that I had my first dog failure. And it wasn't a dog I would have expected. One of the 16 just lay down while the others ran on, allowing himself to be drug. It was difficult, but using my full weight on the brake and dragging the carbide snow hook against the ice, I persuaded the runaway team to stop. Once we came to a stop, I figured Kuna would just shake himself off and stand again. Sometimes Kuna would do this in play or exultation, letting himself slide for a few seconds on the snow before jumping up and shaking it off, but he didn't get up. I kicked and kicked the snow hooks until both found purchase on the ice. Then I shuffled across the slick surface, unhooking tug lines on dogs as I passed so the team couldn't take off on me. And then I reached my fallen comrade. Kuna is a large, well-built male of 4 years. He's in his prime. His short gray coat, walnut-colored eyes, thick rounded chest, and symmetrical markings make him a striking dog. He's one of the hardest workers on the team. He'd been neutered as a yearling before I acquired him, so he'd never contribute genetically to the breed despite his prowess. I gently helped him to his feet. He laid back down again. "Okay, boy, okay." Scooping him into my arms, I carried him to the sled and made a nest out of my gear for him. Zipping him into the sled bag, I reattached the dog's ganglines and we were off again. The team was as jovial as ever, but my joy was gone. Despite the lies peddled by certain so-called animal rights groups, dogs in 1,000-mile Iditarod races, for example, are statistically less likely to pass away than the same number of pet dogs. This is due to their superior health, superior nutrition, and superior veterinary care. If one mushes seriously over 20 years with, say, 20 dogs, you're likely to experience the loss of a dog in the 2,000 to 4,000 miles you travel with them every winter. Eliminating work for a working dog breed does not improve their lifespan. Why? Well, athletes tend to live longer than non-athletes, obviously. But the greater reason, known to those of us who work with these dogs, is that the cruelest thing you can do to a working dog is stop them from working. They literally live to run, to pull. It did happen to me once, only once, and it has haunted me ever since. A seemingly perfectly healthy dog on a short, early morning 2-mile, 6-dog warm-up run. The team was attached to a ATV to keep them slow and to avoid overheating. The temperature was about 45 degrees Fahrenheit. When we returned to the kennel, this dog laid down at her doghouse, and she just never got up. It broke my heart so much that I almost sold my entire dog team. I never wanted to experience that again. Is that what was happening to Kuna? Or is he just tired? I watched him obsessively as we closed in on Unalakleet. He rested in the sled for well over an hour. The sun was sharp on the ice, throwing back blinding light, and the air had a sharp, crystalline stillness that only comes in deep cold. But there was no joy in this beautiful run for me now, just worry for Kuna. The team flew down the trail in euphoric high, seemingly oblivious to their exhausted friend. Or perhaps not. Perhaps they understood what we humans often do not, that this is the circle. They live to run and run to live, and when that fateful time comes, they would rather go no other way. Perhaps they were running in honor of Kuna. I reached down and rubbed Kuna's head, whispering that we'd be in Unalakleet soon. His tail gave a thump. His eyes met mine, questioning, almost as if to ask whether I was disappointed in him. I found hope in those small gestures, that this might not be his last run. Perhaps not even his last run on this expedition. If you're enjoying these free recordings of 100 Winters, The Great Race Against Death, then I want to invite you to go onto Amazon and order your copy, hardcover, paperback, or ebook. You can find the link in the description to this podcast below. And if you want an autographed copy, you can drop us a line on social media or on our webpage. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, Godspeed and happy trails.